Hey, curl friends, and welcome back to Cocaknotz, home of the Long Hair Society. So, y'all remember when I did this style on my sister when she was about to give birth to her baby? Yeah, this style done ran ragged. Look at this. I'm embarrassed for her. But I told you this style was not going to last long. It was just for a few days just to get her through that whole childbirth, and that's it. Well, she put the bonnet on and left it on, and it's been a couple of days, and I'm going to take it out because I don't want her to go to her first doctor's appointment with her baby, and the doctor be thinking that the baby have her fighting for her life. So let's go ahead and cut this thing out and treat her hair. This was an easy and affordable hairstyle, so if you're interested in doing a style like this, go ahead and watch that video that I posted on it. You're going to really enjoy it. Now, let's get into what I'm about to do with this hair. Now, because we all are aware of postpartum shedding, we want to make sure that we are diligent and on top of our hair before we experience any of those stuff. Well, not me, because I ain't had no baby, but we want to make sure that she don't experience none of that. So the best way to tackle the hair to prevent this is by keeping the hair in somewhat of a stretch state. I know it might seem odd, but you definitely don't want to encourage any tangles, and you definitely don't want to leave the hair unattended for way too long, because we don't want to deal with any problems when it comes to tangles, knots, and any type of dryness going on. So let's go ahead and do what we got to do to keep this hair in a healthy condition. But first, let's try to understand the hair cycle and the phases of hair growth. Now, the body is very technical and it does things in order. So let's go over these phases. First, let's start with the anagen phase, which is the growth phase. It's the longest phase and lasts 3 to 5 years, but a single hair strand can last up to 7 years. 90% of the hair is in the anagen phase. After the anagen phase, the hair enters into the catagen phase. This phase is also known as the shedding phase. This is where the follicle begins to shrink and the hair starts to separate from the bottom. About 2 to 5% of your hair strands are going through this phase at any given time, lasting about 10 days. The last phase is the telogen phase, which is also known as the resting phase. This phase, the hair strand is no longer receiving a blood supply, and it enters into an extension of the telogen phase called the exogen phase, where the hair actually falls out, sheds, and makes way for a new hair strand, entering back into the anagen phase to start the cycle all over again. So now that we have a better understanding of the phases of hair growth, let's get into the differences between hair loss, hair shedding, and hair breakage. Hair loss is when something stops the hair on your head from growing, and unless you treat that cause, the hair will not grow back again. Hair shedding is when the hair is growing, but more hair than usual falls out each day. When it comes to hair breakage, it's actually a break in the hair shaft below the surface of the scalp. So now that we have a brief summary of all three, let's dive a little deeper into each category to get a better understanding of hair loss, hair shedding, and hair breakage. But before I get into all of that, let me get into this hair and tell you what I'm doing. So I'm removing her braids that was within this protective style, and I'm going to go immediately into sealing her hair. I did not wash it. I am not going to wash it right now. She is not comfortable washing her hair just yet, but I am going to add an additional protective layer. Usually I would go ahead and moisturize the hair with water first, but because we don't want to introduce any shrinking right now and we want to keep the hair in a stretched state just for a couple more days, maybe another week or so, I'm just going to add more amino acids, more minerals, more vitamins in the form of oils and butters that are naturally derived from the earth. I'm just going to add this to her hair strand just to give it more nutrition and just to add, like I said, a protective layer around each strand to keep it stretched, keep it protected, and just keep her hair in a nice, softened, detangled state until she's ready to do her first wash postpartum. For this, I used the Magic Growth Oil on her strands because it's a very thick oil and it's going to really seal her hair even more and protect it. And then I went in and protected the ends even more using the End Repair Butter just to make sure that those ends are in a great sealed state so we can prevent any type of breakage on the ends. So now let's get back to helping you understand if your hair is going through hair loss, hair shedding, or hair breakage. So let's break it down. Let's talk hair loss, also known as alopecia, which is a disorder caused by an interruption in the body's cycle of hair production. Hair loss can occur anywhere on the body, but most commonly on the scalp. The most common type of hair loss is hereditary hair loss, which can be found in both men and women. Sometimes also age, alopecia areata, childbirth, illness, stressors, hair care, hairstyle that pulls on your scalp, hormonal imbalance, and scalp infections can also cause hair loss. So, how are you going to know when you're experiencing hair loss? Most times, a bald patch will appear within 1 or 2 days, or clumps of hair will start to fall out when you comb or brush your hair. Or all or most of your hair done, fell out your head. Generally, baldness begins to occur, and this is because the hair follicle begins to shrink, resulting in finer, shorter hair strands. Over time, those hair strands will stop growing and the follicle will stop producing hair, resulting in alopecia. Once it reaches to this point, basically the hair follicle is asleep. So asleep that it's considered sleeping in peace, which really differs it from hair shedding. Hair loss is lost. Hair shedding just means that your follicle is still alive, but you're just experiencing excessive shed hair. Hair sheds about 50 to 100 strands per day. And usually with hair shedding, you're prematurely shedding that hair, and then you're shedding more than the normal amount of hair strands per day. In other words, hair loss is a dysfunction and a disruption in the hair cycle, and something is just off with the growth phases. Whereas hair shedding is more nutritional, and it's most likely due to a lack of vitamin B, D, zinc, folate, riboflavin, or some type of nutritional deficiency. Now, hair breakage is totally different. Hair breakage is just pieces of the hair strand that has broken off. It does not contain the hair bulb at the beginning of the hair strand, which is basically like a little bit of the blood supply. And here is a clearer picture of the hair bulb. It's usually a white little dot that you will see at the beginning of a hair strand, and that's when you can tell the difference between hair loss, hair shedding versus breakage. Breakage is just a break in a hair strand, and it can be small, it can be medium, it can be long strands of hair that has broken off, and you see those little pieces all over your floor or on your clothes, and that's when you can tell that your hair is just breaking off. Breakage usually happens because of outward causes. For example, overmanipulation, dryness of the hair, excessive or improper heat styling, chemical damage, and excessive combing or brushing. And that's why I always stress to give up the comb and the detangling brushes as much as you can, because hair breakage is basically going to reduce your length. In other words, like if you start to use excessive combs and brushes, you're going to start to see pieces of your hair all over except on your head. So in summary, hair loss is when there's something wrong with the hair phases or the hair cycle. Something didn't happen with the anagen, catagen, or telogen phase, and your hair is lost. Okay. Now, when it comes to the hair shedding, it's more of a nutritional deficiency or some type of stressors going on, and it's more temporary and less permanent compared to hair loss. Now, when it comes to hair breakage, oh, that's on you, boo-boo. You doing something physical to your hair and you ain't doing something right, and you is the problem and you is breaking your hair. Something to do with excessive brushing, combing, or any type of breakage due to manipulation or chemical or heat damage. So while I have your attention, and because I'm working on someone who just delivered a baby, let's touch on postpartum shedding, which is totally normal for women who just gave birth. And this happens because in the last trimester of pregnancy, the estrogen levels are at an all-time high, and this really produces so much hair growth, and which is called the anagen phase. But after you deliver your baby, your estrogen levels return back to normal, forcing your hair into the catagen and telogen phase abruptly, which results in hair shedding, which is normal. Your hair will grow back fuller and thicker after this happens. Now, this happens at around the 4 month mark postpartum. So, right when your baby is about 3, 4 months old, you will start to see some postpartum shedding. Don't freak out, your hair will come back. When this happens, you just want to make sure that you are eating a high protein diet. And in fact, if you're experiencing any type of hair shedding, hair loss, or hair breakage, make sure you have a high protein diet. You're getting all your vitamins and minerals in your diet. Make sure you are reducing your stressors, and definitely introduce a lot more hydrotherapy into your hair. Water your hair. Use oils and butters derived from the earth that contains amino acids, enzymes, and great minerals and vitamins to actually feed your hair a nutrient-rich diet. Make sure you do not over manipulate. As you can see, I just gave her some regular old plaits because she is going to wear a bonnet, and when she goes to her appointment, she might put her hair in a bun or something like that, or she might get another protective style. And as you see, I am tucking away her ends to protect it from friction, just to keep her hair in a calm state. Make sure you're subscribed, and I really hope you enjoyed this video.